Hello guys, welcome to JazzedTutorials, and today I'm going to be showing you a cool stencil banner effect. It's kind of a text effect, so yeah, it's going to be pretty cool, pretty elaborate, pretty involved, but I'll explain step by step how to do this. I have a few of the layers already made here just to show you guys the end of what they all look like, but I'll walk you through how I got to those points now. So I'm using this texture here, a wooden texture. You can use any wooden texture you like for your background, but I just chose this one. I will leave this linked below in the description in case you want to use it, but if you have your own wooden texture you'd like to use for this tutorial, by all means use it. Okay, so once you opened your texture, you're going to have to make it a layer 0 because we are going to be duplicating this texture multiple times, and I'll explain why momentarily. So, yeah. So once you have that, we're going to then now start the process of making our banner. So what you need to do is think of what you want to use for your text, and for each letter of your text you're using, you want to make a rectangular banner, a banner slice like shown here. So I'm going to make a rectangular sort of square banner, and you can use any size you want, guys. I'm just going with a random size here, but whatever size your texture is or your background is you're using, I would go with something that suits all of your letters. So whatever's going to fit each letter is the size you should probably go with. So I'm just going to go with Jazz, so I'll use a smaller size, obviously. So this is going to be what's going to be cut out. Now in the center here, we're going to cut this out with like a stencil, and you'll see what I'm talking about momentarily. So once we have that, we're now going to use our eraser brush over here, and we're going to take a small size soft round brush or hard round brush, however you feel, and we're gonna then, yep, we're going to rasterize your shape layer, by the way, guys, So rasterize the shape layer prior to using the eraser brush, and then in the two top corners here, just take in the eraser brush and make 2 dots. So it looks like you punched a hole in the 2 sides, because at the end of this, we're going to be putting string all through it. So that's why you need the holes. Alright, so we have that. That's our first shape layer. So now, rather than doing the shape layer in this a bunch of times, just take this whole entire layer and duplicate this however many times you want for your letters. So because I'm only using Jazzed, I'm going to only duplicate this 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There should be 3 copy layers and a main layer, and that's all you're going to need. So now I'm going to hide the other 3 layers for now because I want to only work 1 layer at a time. It just makes more sense. So once you have that all planned out, what you want for your text, go back to your background layer and duplicate that the same amount of times as you would for your other layers. So we have 4 letters. That means duplicate this another 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you have 5 layers of your background, because 1 is your background and 4 is for your letters. So 5 total for the background layer of your wooden texture. Alright, now let's go and hide 4 of those. So we're only working, or 3 of those rather, so we're only working with 2, our background and our other layer. Now, grab your type tool. Now, this font is a standard font, I believe, with Photoshop and your computer. It's called Stencil STD. It should be in there. If it's not in there, I would go on to google.com, type in stencil STD font, and somehow download that. I don't think that dafont.com has this font. I do believe it is a standard text font, so it should be in your computer. So we're going to be using that. And any color you want for your font is fine, because we're not going to have that much longer. So just type your first letter. And I'm doing capital letters for this, guys, FYI. Obviously, don't use the same color as your little paper thing you're using. I'm going to go with black just so I can see it. And make sure this is above everything so you see it actually, although it really doesn't matter. And you want to kind of center this just a bit, so place it right in the dead center of this, or wherever you really want to put it, but I think the dead center looks good. Alright, then, this is how we're going to get the stencil effect. Now, I've researched how to do this multiple ways, and there's one way you can do it called combining your layers. I don't have the combined layer option here. The word combine isn't listed here, so I don't know what they're talking about, if they're using Illustrator or what it is, but those methods I don't have optional here, so I did it the kind of a hard way, but it's the only way I could do it physically to make it look cool. So grab your typed layer. We're going to make that an active layer by doing the control and thumbnail click, or command thumbnail click on that. And then down here on your first of your background textured layers, you're going to just mask that out. Now you won't see it right yet, and that's because that layer is below everything. So bring that layer to the very tippity top of this right here. Hello? Why aren't you moving? Tippity tippity top. And boom, look at that. Now, once you have done that, you can now delete that text layer because we don't need that anymore. We just needed it to make that stencil. There you go. That's pretty nifty. Now, because we have so many layers all as it is, I want to merge this entire one art that I just made together. So grab that stencil. First of all, apply the mask layer. Grab that layer, and then your obvious rectangle layer, the one that's already visible, and Control E and merge those two together so that your stencil is one layer, just like that. And you're going to follow those steps for each individual letter. So do the same exact thing for each letter you have, and you will somehow get to something along this line. Now I just free-formed my letterings. I just move them around to give it a cool kind of effect. And you can do the same thing if you want, or you can leave it all in a row. It's up to you how you do it, but this is what I've done here. So you'll notice how I have different sizes for different ones, just because I felt cool enough to do it that way. Alright, next we need to add a drop shadow, just because you don't think of it as a stencil effect quite yet. So I'm going to go double clicking it, and I've added a drop shadow just to that layer. And if you didn't notice already, I merged every single of the stencil layers all into one, so that way the drop shadow's on it all at the same time, and I'm not going through each layer. It just makes more sense. So my drop shadow settings are basically 50% for the opacity, and then I've changed the distance to 10, spread is 11, and the size is 16. But again, you can play with this drop shadow however you want. I just think this looks much better the way it is now. But if you have other ideas for your drop shadow settings, go for it. Alright, next, after we've done that, we now have to make the strings so that it looks like it's on a banner. This can be very difficult for some people. I'm not going to lie, it was for me. It took me a couple of times to get it just right. But we're going to be using the pen tool. The pen tool seems to be the only option for this type of effect. I did use the brush tool at first, and it was all sloppy and messy and disgusting, so that was not an option. And since that was out of play, I went to the pen tool, and I figured something out. So you need to make a new layer now, and this needs to be above your, obviously above your stenciled layer that we just made with the drop shadow. And this will be a layer 1. Well, for me it says layer 1, but for you it might be something else, but whatever. So on that layer, we're going to grab the lovely pen tool, and we're going to start over here in the corner, and we're going to go over here, and I'm going to bend it upwards just a bit so it gives you that like rope bendy type effect. Now, this is where the tricky part comes in. We can't continue this path all the way through because it will then give you a stroke path that'll extend and look really weird. So, how you need to finish this off. Holding down your Control or Command key, click on the next hole that we punched over here. That will then deactivate that path right there, and now you can start making a new path. And then over here to that hole, and we're going to go and just bend that downwards. And then following the same idea as we did before, Control or Command click on the next hole, deactivate that stroke path, make this a new active path by clicking on each one, going upwards like so. And you're going to follow that same exact routine throughout the entire holes you have. But remember, hold down your Command key when you're doing so. And then clicking again to make that a path. Going over here. Alright, and then of course extend all the way to the end, blah blah blah. Alright, now, here's where the tricky part's going to come into, because, well, that was already a tricky part as well. But this is also another part that I didn't really anticipate. When you go ahead and make a stroke layer, it's going to ask you to make a stroke layer on your subpath, which is the one that's really active. So we need to deactivate this but have them all kind of active, if that makes any sense. So in order to do so, we're going to hold down our command key and we're going to click off of it. So that way everything's been deactivated, but it's still a stroke layer. So to now make that a stroke layer, we're going to have to edit this a bit. So go to your brush tool. I'm selecting 4px for my size. I'm using a hard round brush. And the color that I've chosen is, I'm going to choose something that's a bit darker than, a bit lighter than my background color for my wooden texture, but also something that's a bit lighter and resembles a rope-like color. So we're going to go with something maybe like, no, I don't like that color. Maybe something like that. Okay, something like this maybe. Sure, we'll go with that. But you can choose really virtually any color you want. Just going with that. Then you can now go back to your pen tool and you can now right click. Oh, actually no, we can't do it that way. My mistake again. I did that mistake before and it was like, grayed out, why? So then on your work, we're going to click on the word paths over here, and that's right next to your channels. If for whatever reason that window's not there, just go over here to window and you'll just click it and it will appear out of nowhere. Then with that layer still selected, which it's not, I don't think, on me. Oh right, mine's grayed out because of the fact that I have that not visible. So on that layer, go over here to your word paths, or you can now right click it. Ha ha ha, just kidding guys. You can click on the word stroke path. I'm going to simulate the pressure for this one, but if you don't want to, it's fine. And then click OK, and it will then make that all looking nice. Right click it again and hit delete path, and when you zoom out, you should have something kind of like that. Pretty cool. Alright, this is what I have for mine. Mine looks just like that. And it looks like it's weaving in and out. And that essentially is the stencil banner text effect. I think it looks pretty cool. Don't you guys think so? I mean, if you don't like it, it's okay. No hard feelings. I just think that some of you might like it and think it's cool. You could even warp this. You can even move your text or your stencils in any shape or form. I mean, this is just the beginning of what could be awesome for you. But yeah, that's the basics of this tutorial. I'm sure you guys that are more advanced than I am right now can do a lot more with it, and that's fine. You do it. That's awesome. If you guys want to share any of your creations with me, you are more than welcome to. You can hit me up on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook. I'm always there. And yeah, that's about it, guys. I will see you guys next week with another tutorial. Stay awesome, stay pretty, stay cool, and yeah, that's it. Alright, bye!